Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Hello, good evening, Palm Bay. Welcome to another event. Tonight is our final debate for the judicial candidates, and joining me tonight is Miss Renee Torpy, Miss
Hi.
Kimberly Musselman, and Mr. Rodney Edwards. Welcome to the platform, everyone. Good evening and welcome. And we're going to kick tonight off. We have three candidates, lovely candidates with us tonight. And so we're going to kick tonight off by asking everyone to introduce themselves to the public and tell us why you're running for office. And 2 minutes each, please. So we're going to start with Miss Torpy and work our way down.
All right. Hi, good evening. My name is Renee Torpy. I graduated from Satellite High School. I then went and continued my education at Brevard Community College, and then went to University of Central Florida, where I received my Bachelor's of Science in Legal Studies, and I specialized in criminal law and individual liberties. I then commuted to Barry University School of Law, and I received a high honor certificate in trial advocacy. And before graduation, Mr. Blaze Tredis, he's the current public defender, offered me a job. I accepted, and I worked there for a few years. And then I went ahead and I transferred over to the state attorney's office. And there I practiced misdemeanors, felonies, juvenile court, juvenile drug court, and completed Baker Acts. And then in 2020, I went into our certified domestic violence shelter here in town, and I became an injunction for protection attorney. And I now help victims of domestic dating and sexual violence and stalking receive a restraining order against their abusers. And I am currently running for County Court Judge Group 4.
Okay, great. Thank you, Miss Torpy. And next up, we're going to have Miss Kimberly Musselman. And hopefully I'm saying your name right, correct?
You are. You are saying it just right.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and have her introduce herself.
Hello, I am Kimberly Musselman, and I have called Brevard County home for 30 years. I came here from Maryland to attend Florida Institute of Technology. Back in 1998, I got a psychology degree in 1992. But prior to graduation, I interned at the jail pretrial release, and that started my interest in the criminal justice system. I worked there for about 2 years, and then I was hired as a probation officer for the county. I served in that position for 7 years. And then I attended law school in Widener, at Widener School of Law in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And during law school, I was hired by a judge as his judicial law clerk, and I served in that role for 3 years, which gave me an opportunity to work behind the scenes with a judge on family, civil, and criminal matters. I did miss Florida, and I came back in 2004, and I was appointed as an assistant state attorney at the state attorney's office, which is a long term for prosecutor. So I have worked as a prosecutor for 18 and a half years. I have worked in the trial divisions, intake division, training division, and I also am an attorney that works on the grand juries, which are the first degree homicides. I have trained 35 prosecutors in our office, and 6 of them are now judges. And I've worked with thousands of victims through my career, from the very beginning of the stages till the end. I train law enforcement officers. I make very difficult decisions every day and communicate those to victims and law enforcement and the attorneys, much like a judge. I work with all of the community partners. I'm very well versed in the programs that we have, the problem solving courts, the first offender, diversion programs. And I am ready to be the next Brevard County judge. And I look forward to telling you more about myself. Thank you.
Okay, great, great. And thank you. Mr. Edwards, your turn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rodney Edwards. I was born and raised here in Brevard County. I graduated from Melbourne High School. I was raised by a single mother and my family who taught me 3 things: importance of a good education, the value of working hard, and the importance of giving back to the community. My mother worked here in the county for 43 years at the same job as a librarian here for Brevard County. And so she instilled some things in me that when I got ready to graduate, she automatically assumed that I was going to be going to college. But I wanted to go into the military. And so we had to come up with some type of arrangement. And I promised her that if she signed for me, because at the time I was only 16 years old, that if she signed for me to go into the Marine Corps, I promised her that I would go back and get an education. And after I was honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps, I went back. I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then once I got that bachelor's degree, I applied to law school. I was accepted to law school at Florida A&M, University College of Law. So I had to come back home to Florida. I graduated from Florida A&M College of Law 13th in my class out of about 250. And just this past December, I received a Master's in Public Administration from FIT with a 4.0 GPA. While I was in law school, I had the opportunity to work for Orlando Police Department legal. And at that time, Val Dennings was the police chief. I got experience there doing forfeiture cases using the Florida Contraband Forfeiture Act. And later on, I had the ability or the opportunity to clerk for Circuit Court Judge Reginald Whitehead. He was on a criminal bench at that time, a circuit criminal bench. And after graduating from law school, taking the bar, I went to work for a short stint at a criminal firm, Muller and Somerville, who handled all types of high-profile criminal cases. At some point, I decided that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I opened up the law office of Rodney Edwards in Orlando. And I've done criminal cases, family cases, all kinds of civil cases, forfeitures, foreclosures, creditor-debtor acts, real estate. I'm also a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Florida, and I currently serve the citizens of Brevard County as the deputy city attorney for the city of Palm Bay, where I handle things like code enforcement, police and fire, finance, taxation, housing issues, procurement, real estate, land use and zoning. And so that's why I felt that now was the time for me to actually run for judge, because I feel like I have gained the knowledge and experience to be a judge.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so I'm going to start with the ladies. So, Ms. Musselman, I'm going to start with you. Why, and I think you answered this in your introduction, but you can probably emphasize this for the viewers. Why do you want to become a judge? Why do you want to become a judge?
I would like to become a judge because it's the perfect time in my career for me to serve the citizens of Brevard, but from behind the bench, from a different perspective that I've been serving as an assistant state attorney. I think a judge has to be knowledgeable in the law, has to be patient, has to treat people with dignity and respect, has a calm demeanor, knows how to analyze and evaluate cases so they can make well-reasoned decisions. And I believe that I have those skills and I'm ready to put them to use. I also believe that, court is very stressful for people, but I also, having been a probation officer and an assistant state attorney, I've actually seen the good that can come out of court. There's a lot of positives. People's lives change for the better, they improve, and I want to be a part of that positive change.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Ms. Torpy, you're up next. Go ahead and tell us why you want to be a judge.
It's been a childhood dream of mine to always be a judge. And my whole career, I've worked on doing that. So once I graduated, or actually when I was currently in University of Central Florida, I started working at Hayward, Cheney and Thomas. And I enjoyed that. And I went over to Alpizar Law, and I enjoyed working with him. And he was an amazing trial attorney, and he was a great mentor to me. And because of him and seeing him prep for trials, I went ahead and applied and was accepted to law school. So I went to law school. I even volunteered at the Women's Center as a victim's advocate. And then you heard, I then went on to be a public defender and then a state attorney and then my current position. So I have spent basically tons of time in the courtroom, either as a victim's advocate or as a public defender, as a state attorney, or now as an injunction for protection. So I'm in court just about every single day. And I would like to take that practical knowledge of the law that I've consistently applied in the courtrooms daily, and I am ready to become one of Brevard County's court judges.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Edwards, your turn.
I want to become a judge because I think that for me as an attorney, the next pinnacle in my career would be to move to the judiciary. I think that I have gained in my 20 years experience working around the legal community in my 13 years as a licensed attorney, that I have gained a vast array of legal knowledge and experience. As I stated before, I think that once I became a deputy city attorney, my knowledge, legal experience, and ability to adapt and to be fair increased substantially. So I think that I can use my knowledge, my experience, and my service to continue to serve not only the residents of Palm Bay, but the residents of Brevard County. And I think that based on my history of working with residents in the Palm Bay area, that I have proven that I can be fair regardless of what side of the issue I'm on.
Okay, awesome, great. All right, so Mr. Edwards, it's your turn. I think everybody answered why do you believe you'll be a good judge based on the answers I got. So let's go ahead and skip right down to the next question here. What experience do you have as an attorney that makes you the best candidate? So Mr. Edwards, you're up.
I think the experience that I have that makes me the best candidate is the fact that I haven't just practiced criminal defense, but I've also practiced in the area of family law, which also deals with injunctions. But I think what sets me apart is that I've also practiced in civil trial work. I've done real estate transactions. I worked on one of the largest church acquisitions in Brevard County, which was a multi-million-dollar deal for Shiloh Christian Center. I have, as a deputy city attorney, as I stated, we're the inside counsel, in-house legal counsel for the entire city of Palm Bay, which is the largest city in Brevard County. So we encounter a myriad of issues and things that go on a daily basis, where we are required to not only understand the law, interpret the law, but give a legal opinion to individuals that are pretty much political because they are elected public officials. I think that I've been awarded two awards that are peer reviewed, being that I'm AB rated by Martindale Hubble, and I've also uh, won Florida Trend Legal Elite in the area of city, county, local government law for the past 2 years. So I think that my experience, as well as my life experiences and my ability to be fair and even tempered would benefit the Brevard County residents over here in next county court judge.
Okay, great. Ms. Musselman, your turn.
I would say my experience as a prosecutor, I have 18 and a half years, which means I've worked on thousands and thousands. It's probably upwards to 20,000 cases, which means I've worked with victims and witnesses and law enforcement officers and defense attorneys, upwards to 50,000 possibly. I'm a great communicator. I've really experienced a lot of law. A lot of times people think that I simply just work on criminal law, but that's not true. We often have to determine whether something's civil, whether it's family, and we have to assist law enforcement in determining that. And I do that. I have a vast knowledge in county court. County court is misdemeanors and traffic offenses. And I worked there for 7 years as a probation officer. Then I worked for a year and a half as a trial attorney and was promoted to the training attorney a year and a half in, and worked for 5.5 years training all the misdemeanor attorneys in county court. I worked in every single county court. I, tried cases myself. I tried cases as a training attorney, which is very difficult when you're assisting a new attorney during hearings or trials. And, I have a lot of experience with law enforcement. I do ride-alongs with them. I interview confidential informants. I've been involved in very complex investigations. I understand a lot about drug abuse and mental health issues and homelessness and unemployment and poverty and all the issues of the people that come before the county court judges in the people's court. I really think I have a good sense of how to evaluate cases and make well-reasoned decisions. I think all of that has come from my experience as an attorney.
Okay, awesome. Ms. Torpy, you're up next.
Yes. So I believe it is my experience, my courtroom experience. As a defense attorney, I wrote motions. So I've seen people be falsely accused of crimes. I wrote their motions to suppress. I won them. And then the state had to all process their cases. I also have worked as a state attorney and seen victims affected and then prosecuted successfully cases. And those people were sent to jail and punished. So I think I have that unique perspective of seeing both sides. And then in addition to just practicing in criminal court, I do practice doing injunction hearings, which is family court in the civil world. And previously, as you heard, I worked at civil law firms where I sat there and I saw how personal injury cases work. I see how private law firms work. I see that they are hustling to get their clients. They can be appearing in multiple courtrooms. I know when I was a brand new attorney, I was confused of why the private attorneys always got to go before the public defender. But now working in all these different areas of law and practicing and being in the courtroom, I see that's because those private defense attorneys are having to bounce around from courtroom to courtroom, where the state attorney and the public defender are assigned to those courtrooms. I just feel like with me knowing the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, that would make me the best candidate because I have the most courtroom experience.
Okay. Awesome, everyone. Awesome answers. Okay, great. So let's keep it going. The next question is, have you tried jury trials and how many? Ms. Musselman, you're up next.
Yes, I have. I've tried 31 jury trials, and I have, which obviously the burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. And I actually did a report that my opponents did not do to the Florida bar that, reported the trials that I've had. And I didn't catch, did you say non-juries also or just jury trials?
That would be.
I didn't know if you wanted me to address both or.
You can address both. You can address
Okay.
both.
Apologize if I jumped the gun, but
That's okay.
so I actually have had 6 non-jury trials. And again, the burden with that is beyond a reasonable doubt. I've had, many hearings, countless hearings, but just for non-jury trials, 6. So 31 jury trials and 6 non-jury trials.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the answer. Mr. Edwards, so we're answering, have you tried jury trials? How many? And have you tried non-jury trials and how many? Okay.
Yes, I've tried both non-jury and jury trials. I haven't tried as many as Miss Musselman at 30, but I've done about maybe 10 or 20. I don't know exactly. I haven't gone through everything. But as a new attorney working at Muller and Somerville, their philosophy was always uh, if you can't convince the state to drop the case or work some type of deal out, you're probably going to have a difficult time convincing the jury. And so that's what I have taken in my practice. And I've been able to be successful to not have to take my clients all the way to a jury trial where it's left up to complete strangers to decide their fate. I think that's one of the things that has benefited me in the practice. As far as non-jury trials, um, back when the foreclosure cases were coming, I was just starting my practice up, so I was covering for some of the big mill houses, as well as doing family law cases. So I mean, I covered so many of those. I don't really know how many of those actually non-jury trials that were heard by judges, but there was a lot of foreclosure cases and child support and family law cases that I've done.
Okay, great. And just by way of announcement to the audience, I see the opposing questions in the comments. The questions to judicial candidates already been pre-screened. We have to be very careful in the way we pose these questions because we don't want to get them in trouble in future decision making if one of those questions have to be answered in a hearing at some point in time. So it's very important that we pre-screen these questions. Now I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure where it is. I'm trying to isolate it. Um, is somebody playing the video in the background somewhere?
No.
Getting some feedback. Let's see if we can isolate it. Okay. All right. So that was Mr. Edwards. So let's go ahead and Ms. Torpy, you're next.
Okay. So I've first chaired over 16 jury trials. I've sat second chair probably 20 to 30 jury trials. And then between my criminal and civil non-jury trials, I probably have over 130. Could be a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure on that. It was 120 in January. So I have vast trial experience. I feel very comfortable entering in evidence and presenting it to the court.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your answer. All right. Let's keep it moving. The next question I have is, what kind of things do you do outside of the legal profession? And for that, I'm going to go to Ms. Torpy first.
So I am the chair of the DV task force, which is connected into the legal field. And I provide for every law enforcement agency, so every police department, every sheriff's office. We have the Women's Center, we have Salvation Army, Serene Harbor, and we all get together once a month and I provide them with any new case law. We also go over anything new that we can use for the victims to help out. For example, there's a website called VineLeak, and so we provide that to them so the victim will know when their abuser is being released. So I keep them up to date on that. In addition to that, I also volunteer at We Dance Academies. They're our local ballet ballroom dance studio. And I have helped them anywhere from their fundraisers to getting advertisement. And we were actually able to put on 2 shows at the King Center this past year with the State of Ballet from the Ukraine. And I also volunteer with multiple organizations. And with my oldest daughter, she does Girl Scouts, so I volunteer with that. And I'm just always trying to give back to the community in any way I can.
Okay, Great. Thank you for your answer. Muslim, you're up next.
Yes. Well, in 2011, I actually adopted two children from the foster care program. And at the time, I was volunteering and became aware of the need. And um, that I was actually very active in a lot of organizations at the time. So my children jumped right in and started volunteering. At the time, I was in the Junior League of South Brevard and, served in 6 different roles and eventually was the president in 2012. And then I also have been, was 10 years active on the board of AMI Kids Space Coast. And I'm now a friend of the AMI Space Coast because I took a little back spot to actually work on my children's activities because they are now teenagers. So everybody knows how busy teenagers can keep you. But we continue to volunteer a lot. I was an adult literacy tutor for many years, and I am getting back to doing that now because I believe very much in that cause. I also was the chair and a board member for the 18th Judicial Circuit Sexual Assault Victim Services, and I served for about 5 years on that. But other than that, we definitely volunteer for some charity organizations, events that happen daily. We love to be involved in our community, and I love to show them how important that is.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Mr. Edwards, your turn.
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to be selected by the president of the Florida Bar on many occasions, on several occasions, to be appointed to 2 committees, the Diversity and Inclusionary Committee and the Eminent Domain Committee. And I've served on those boards for about since 2017, along with one other board that deals with government public policy. Um, I'm also a member of Vassar v. Carlton Inns of Court. I've been the elected treasurer in that position for the last 2 years. In addition to that, I'm part of several community service fraternal organizations as well as social organizations that keep me extremely busy, working in the community, giving back to youth um, and the community in general. One of my most proudest community service activities is that I'm the state director of the organization called the Knights of Pythagoras. And in that program, it's a male mentoring program where we mentor youth from the age of 6 years old to 18 years old. Um, and I'm very proud of that. We've grown that organization to almost 500 youth around the state of Florida. And we are uh, bent to give back to young men to build them up and to make them stronger. Um, I also, in my spare time, since COVID came, started cycling to try to improve my health. And then the other times for my stress relief, I love to ride motorcycles. So that's what I do in my spare time outside of the legal profession.
Okay, great. All right, everyone. I know this question wasn't a part of something that I previewed to you guys prior to, and if you can opine, you can. If you don't want to opine, you tell me no. But has anyone been approached in regards to possibly in regards to asking an individual to drop out of the race? Has anybody approached you to try to coerce you to drop out of the race?
Yes, I can answer that.
You can answer that. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes, I had a meeting with Sheriff Ivy back on May 20th, in which he asked me to consider coming out of this race and consider possibly, becoming a circuit court judge in the future where he would endorse me, or then he also talked to me about being appointed at some point state attorney or to be elected state attorney. He would actually help me with either of those two things. And I told him no, I wanted to be a county court judge. And I told him, when he ran for sheriff, if someone had approached him and asked him to run for county commission instead of a sheriff, would he have done that? My decision to run for county court judge is my decision with my family, my mother and I, and my friends and colleagues that are supporting me and encouraging me. So, I steadfast to that goal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do either of you, Ms. Torpy or Mr. Edwards, chime in on what happened with Musselman, or no?
I have no idea what happened to Miss Musselman. I was approached on a different race, but not on this race, not to run. So I
Okay.
can't speak to what Miss Musselman went through.
All right. Ms. Edwards?
No, I was never approached by the sheriff to have lunch or drop out of the race.
Okay. I didn't call a name, but okay. But okay. I was just saying anyone, but all right. So we make some news tonight. So it's already out there in the public sphere. I just wanted to clear that up. Let's keep going. What do you believe a judge's job entails? And I'll start with Mr. Edwards. What do you believe a judge's job entails?
I think first and foremost, although all attorneys should be knowledgeable in the law, I think that if you're going to sit on the bench and actually judge and make decisions, that you need to be very astute, almost an expert in the law, and knowledgeable in various areas of the law. I think because you're listening to cases that are coming in, you have a very heavy caseload, and you can't afford to learn on the job. I also think that for many individuals, it's maybe their first time ever having introduction or being introduced to the judicial system. And so I think you have to have some empathy towards those individuals, whether they be on the defense or whether they be a victim or whether they be someone that's accused of a crime. We all have that 50 Amendment. We always have that right that you have to be you're guilty until proven innocent. So we need to deal with everybody from that perspective. You also need to be fair with individuals and be empathetic in understanding their situation. One of the things that I appreciate about some of the judges that I've appeared before, they're very respectful to the members of the audience. They're very respectful to the attorneys in their courtroom, as well as the staff that they have. They're helping them to be a successful judge. I think you need to also have some good leadership qualities because when you're in the courtroom and you're on the bench, you're pretty much that's the domain where you have to maintain control, maintain order, and keep people as professional as possible. I think you need to be great with your time management to get the cases in and out so that justice is not delayed. You need to be a good problem solver, and you also need to be a mentor and give back to your community.
Okay, great. All right, Ms. Torpy, you're up next.
Sure. As I understand the judge's oath, it's to interpret the laws and to protect the constitutional rights of all citizens, regardless of their power or position. It's the judge's duty to support the laws as they were written and not how they wish the laws were written, which I think is very important to stress. If elected, I promise to administer justice fairly and impartially with respect and dignity to all. My decisions will be made free of any political influence or intimidation, and regardless of my own personal views or the view of the voters. And I would make the promise to always keep an open mind in deciding matters, free of personal opinions, while following the law. And I believe that is what a judge is supposed to do.
Okay, Ms. Musselman.
Well, I would say that a judge's job entails pretty much being in court daily for specific matters, and it's very important that judges can communicate very well to all the parties, manage their dockets. Like both of my opponents have said, the dockets can be large, and it's very important that judges have the ability to research the law. They're not going to necessarily know everything that comes before them, so they have the ability to research the law. And I know that judges confer with other judges in matters. Certainly, a judge should treat all parties in the courtroom with dignity and respect. And one part that I think is very important is understanding that the parties in the courtroom have an understanding of what's happening. I've been in the court many times where I feel that people are nervous and they're just shaking their head, yes, that they understand things. But being a trainer and being somebody that trains people, I know when someone's shaking their head and they don't understand anything, that's not clicking. So I think it's very important for a judge to take the time to make sure someone, understands everything that's happening with them. I also think, county court judges handle first appearances. They handle early resolution pleas, which are felony pleas. And they have to be well versed in, all of the programs that are available as a part of that, score sheets. There's a lot of skills that are really needed to be a county court judge, and I have them.
Okay, great. Oops. Let's go ahead and add you back. Let's go. So here we go. The next question is going to be from Ms. Musselman. And so we're going to start with a COVID question here. Besides COVID, what do you think is the biggest problem facing the court system today? Besides COVID, what do you think is the biggest problem facing the court system today?
Well, what I would say is that, and not just because of COVID, but I believe that justice is not timely and it's not swift anymore. I work on cases and I file cases that happen within 10 seconds or 30 seconds. I mean, literally the whole crime happens in that short amount of time. And then I will talk with a victim in a case and find out that, that case is still pending a year later, 2 years later. And when a case is delayed, it is not good for anybody, but it's certainly not good for the state because witnesses' memories fade, victims' memories fade, people become disinterested in cases. People move, law enforcement officers move, get promoted, so we have a difficult time at the state attorney's office when justice is not timely. So, I would say that delayed justice is, justice denied. And I'd like to see, and again, not just because of COVID, it was happening, before COVID too. I think we need to move cases along in a better time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ms. Torpy, you're up next.
Yes. So sometimes I believe there is a reason for a delay in the courtroom. For example, when I was a public defender, sometimes you need to be able to write a motion to suppress. That motion to suppress could be 20, 30 pages with all your case law and supporting documents. So you need to ask for a continuance. And I think that you need to be fair to both. The judge needs to be fair to both parties. And so I think that's important. But as far as struggles in the courtroom, I think what you need to realize is that with COVID, it did open up a lot of eyes. And we've had the court system in whole, the judges, the attorneys, and everything. We've had to learn how to do things differently. The example I like to use is my judge that I practiced in front of during COVID. We conducted juvenile drug court via Zooms and Teams, and it worked out great, and it kept the cases moving. However, those were not evidentiary hearings, which would add a completely complex step if you're having to enter evidence. So I think it's just important that as a judge, you make sure that you keep an open mind and you are adaptable and you're flexible and you're willing to try different things to keep those cases moving, but making sure that the proceedings is fair to both parties.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer. All right, Ms. Edwards, your turn.
I think the biggest problem facing the court system today is our lack of diversity and inclusion within our bar as members and within the judiciary. Back in 2010, we created a committee here at the Florida Bar, which was called a Diversity and Inclusionary Committee. And the purpose of that committee was to get a more diverse membership in the bar that reflects the demographics of our state of Florida. And I believe it was 2017, at that time, President Eugene Pettis took a look and set a survey up to look at our judiciary to see why we weren't getting as diverse applicants that were being accepted to the JNC to sit on that board. Neither were we getting individuals through the JNC that were actually getting nominated to judgeships. And so I think based on those two actions, I think that stated or that plainly states to me that I think that that's one of the biggest issues or the biggest problem facing our court system today. As I had a similar question put to me at last week at our last forum, I think that many people don't get a chance to actually know the judges. They don't get a chance to see us. But for our residents here in Brevard County, you Google the 18th Judicial Circuit. There's a tab on there that says Judicial Directory. And you can scroll through. They have a picture of every judge in both Brevard and Seminole County. And so I think that in a county that's 72 miles long, I just think we can do better with our diversity and inclusion with those candidates that are actually qualified to become judges, whether through appointment or through election.
Okay, great. All right, Ms. Edwards, the next question is going to be for you, and we're going to work our way down. What are the major influences in your life and why?
I think one of the most major influence in my life would have to be my mother and my family. As I stated, I was raised in a single parent household. I watched my mother go to work to the same job my entire life. She never did get a degree, but in spite of that, her hard work paid off for her, and she became the directress of at first at Stone Middle School, and then the Dr. Martin Luther King Library, where they have honored her with her own room. And so I think that those the things that I saw in her make me know that regardless of what I do, as long as I work hard at it, do what is truly in my heart, that I too can succeed. And so she has made a major influence in my life and the things that I'm doing right now.
Okay, great answer. Thank you, sir. Ms. Musselman, you're up next.
Yes, my greatest influence obviously would be my mother and my father. My mother and father actually had very difficult childhoods. My father lost his mother at the age of 10, and they both struggled with families that had a lot of divorce and alcoholism and things like that. So they married, and they decided they were going to have a strong relationship. Unfortunately, they were unable to have any other children, so I was their only child. But they really put a strong foundation and a great sense that they believed in me, and it really helped me. My father, when I graduated from law school, said to me that his mother would be so proud of me. And I just teared up thinking, your mother would be proud of you, of the man that you are. Both of my parents worked, their jobs 31 and 33 years. And they just they were leaders in the community. They volunteered with many organizations, and they were role models for me. So I followed in their footsteps. And my dad has passed. He passed in 2015 with dementia, but I certainly still live by everything he's taught me through the years. Greatest influence, absolutely. Greatest man.
Awesome. And, thank you for your answer. Okay, Ms. Torpy?
Yes. So my parents were also great influences in my life. My father was in the military. He was a master paratrooper. He was part of Desert Storm. And my mother was a librarian, so she actually just retired this April. And so both my parents dedicated their life to public service. And they always taught me that you need to put into your community what you hope to get out. And your community is where you live, and you need to take care of your community. And they passed that on to me. And I would say the other major influence in my life is my husband. He is so supportive of me. We've been married. We'll be married 11 years come September. And we've been through everything, good and bad. He was there with me through law school. He was there with me through jobs, taking the bar exam. I've been there for him while he opened up his business, and it was very successful. And even during the low times, like when we lost our child, we were still there for each other, and we always supported each other. So I would say he's one of the greatest influences in my life because he's my rock.
Okay, great. All right, folks. The next question is going to be directed towards Ms. Torpy, and then we'll work our way down. So the next question is, please describe your administrative experience and what are your primary strengths as a supervisor or as an administrator?
Okay, I would say mostly guidance. I have taken underneath my wing many interns. My interns have been amazing. They've always approached us. So at Serene Harbor, we're a nonprofit organization. So obviously our funds are limited. So I try to give them that courtroom experience. And even though they are not able to speak, they can still attend the hearings. One of my interns was actually from Puerto Rico. So she was able to speak Spanish and English, which helped out tremendously. It helped the client feel comfortable because they could speak their native language to her. And she was translating because I would have to use language line because I only speak English. And I was able to show her everything from how to e-file to when we subpoenaed officers, how to prep up a trial. And it's just very rewarding. And one of them even nominated me for Best Leader Award. And I won that last year because she was so impressed by the guidance I gave her inside and outside the courtroom.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer. And then we're going to work our way down. Ms. Musselman, you're next.
Yes, as the training attorney at the state attorney's office, I was also titled as the assistant misdemeanor division chief. So I supervised 18 attorneys and 12 support staff. So 30 people, which, they're your greatest asset. I used to tell my boss I work my best to keep those people happy every day so that they are working hard for the citizens of Brevard County. One of the things that people would always say about me, because lawyers do have pretty big egos, but they would always say that they could see that I found a lot of pleasure in the success of others. And that's absolutely true. When I saw the attorneys that were afraid to go to trial or afraid to go against this defense attorney or do this hearing, come back and, feel successful, it gave me a sense of pride to that, I was there to encourage them. I, was very, people were very happy with me. I'm very much a team player. I helped people with a lot of issues outside of work, even because, we are like a family at work. And, I have been in many of my volunteer organizations too. I've been a supervisor, and I haven't mentioned, but I was in a sorority at Florida Institute of Technology, and I have worked as a regional volunteer, a local volunteer, a national volunteer, and supervised, volunteers all over the country. So I have a lot of experience with leadership, and usually have, a lot of people very happy to work with me.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to try to keep your answers to about a minute because we're getting close to the end. So let's go to Ms. Torpy. Did you answer your question already?
You did not ask a question.
I didn't ask a question yet. Okay.
I don't think Mr. Edwards got
Ms.
the
Edwards.
answer.
Okay, that's
I believe.
Sorry, thank you for that. Ms. Edwards, you're up next.
So I've had a vast array of administrative experience going back to the military. Although Marines are all considered infantrymen, we all have a certain MOS. And my MOS at the time was in personnel. And so we handled all the records for a battalion of Marines, which is 4 companies of Marines we deployed. We had to keep their pay together, their service record books. So I had a lot of experience early in age, administrative experience. Later on in life, I had the chance to manage a trucking company with trucks that were going all over the United States. And we had to keep them in contact, keep the fuel going, and keep the routes going. I've also owned 2 businesses, my law firm and a real estate company. So I know what it takes to actually run a business on my own. I've run 2 businesses so far, both of them have been successful. I've also been in administrative roles in fraternal organizations and social organizations that are volunteer. And I think that that's something that's key because when you're paying someone, you have to treat them differently than when a person is volunteering. And I think one of the things that my primary strengths of supervision are that I'm fair, I'm respectful, and I'm considerate of each employee.
Okay, great. Ms. Edwards, why should voters support you rather than your opponent? And tell me one thing you like about your opponents.
I think that the reason voters should support me, I think I have the knowledge. As I stated earlier, I have the experience in a vast array of areas of law. I have a long history and track record of service, not only service to the country, but service to the community as well. And I think that um, based on my track record with the city, I think that I've been able to prove that I am have the fairness and the temperament to sit on the bench in Brevard County. I think both of the candidates, my opponents, are very nice individuals. We have gotten along very well, um, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Okay, Ms. Torpy.
Yes. I would go back to my experience in the courtroom, my trial experience, my knowledge of the rules of evidence, my knowledge of the rules of procedure, being able to see it from the victim's eyes, but also from the defendant's eyes, and understanding the struggles and the perspectives that both sides go through. And I've also been published twice in different law journals, so I think that's another strength I have that my opponents do not. And so I would say Rodney Edwards, I admire him for his work in the community. I believe he was part of renaming, it was Airport Boulevard to Martin Luther King Boulevard. And I know he was very involved with that, and he's very involved in the community, and I admire that. And Kimberly, I don't know as well, but I admire her for adopting 2 children out of the foster system.
Okay, great. Musselman, your turn.
Yes, my both my opponents have a lot of merits, but I am most ready to be judge. I will in September celebrate 19 years as an attorney, and ironically, Mr. Edwards and I both were licensed on September 23rd, just 7 years apart. So he has 12 years, and Ms. Torpy has 7 years in April. I feel like I have the most practical knowledge for a county court judge, both from my experience as being a pretrial release investigator, from being a probation officer, and from being a prosecutor. Like I said, they have merits, but I feel most prepared for this and could step right in. I have trained 6 of the judges. 5 judges sit on the bench right now in Brevard and 1 in North Carolina. I definitely admire Mr. Edwards. I've learned his community involvement, a little bit about his work at Palm Bay, which I find very interesting. And he's a very nice gentleman. Ms. Torpy, I certainly admire the work that she's doing at Serene Harbor. I have worked with a lot of domestic violence victims in my career. So thank you.
All right, great. Ms. Musselman, I'm going to ask a question here, but try to keep it short. Please describe your first-hand experience, if any, dealing with people who are different from you socially, economically, or politically.
Well, I would say that would involve my entire life from the very beginning. I have always, been around people that are different from me in all of those categories. And, I see the worth in everybody. Definitely I can share that I've worked with victims, who unfortunately are homeless to, millionaires. I've worked with all kinds of people, and I see the worth. I'm very much a people person, and that's why I'd love to be a county court judge in the people's court.
Okay, Ms. Torpy, you're up next.
So yes, I deal with people who are completely different from me, whether we have different views, if they're socially or economically different, just not my clients. We have friends that we go out and go mudding with out in the trucks, and then we have friends, that we'll go to wine tastings with. So I can fit in anywhere. As far as economically with my clients, we have clients that'll come and they'll have absolutely nothing, not even shoes on their feet. And then I've had represented clients that live in $2 million mansions on the river. So, and I treat them all the same, like I tell them abuse is abuse. And so I've always carried that philosophy. You never know what someone's going through, and you should always try to see their point of view and see where they're coming from. And in my line of work, I also deal with many different cultures. And I am one of the few attorneys that will take the clients that speak Arabic or speak Spanish or a different language.
Ms. Edwards?
I think I've experienced this throughout my childhood growing up, just going through elementary, junior high, and high school playing sports. We were socially interacting with every race, creed, color, nationality. And then when I entered the military, the first day in the military, they throw you in a squad bay with 82 people from all around the country, all around the world. And we had to get along and develop as a team in order to graduate boot camp. Living abroad while I was in the military, living in California, surely in the Los Angeles area, you come in contact with almost every culture, every economic status, every political status. And I think that even here in the legal profession, working as a deputy city attorney, it's all political. So you never know. Well, you know what party people are, but you got to accomplish the mission for the citizen. So we have to put party to the side.
Okay, great. Ms. Edwards, what factors are considered in granting and setting bail amounts for defendants? What do you believe is the primary consideration?
I think the two primary considerations would be the reasonableness of the bond without being excessive, and the likelihood of the individual fleeing the jurisdiction. And I think that those are accomplished by a judge actually looking at the nature of the crime, which has been alleged to have occurred, whether that individual has failure to appear in previous cases. You look at the strength of the evidence towards guilt or innocence. One of the big things is the ties of that individual to the community. Those are one of the factors that ties into the likelihood of the person fleeing the jurisdiction or not. Finances and their prior record.
Ms. Musselman?
Well, I was introduced to this when I worked at pretrial release as an investigator. Before we had computers, we had to provide the judge with people's addresses and employment and ties to the community. And so, yes, the judge has to determine whether, the ways that they can assure the person will show up for court in the future, and then also considering the protection of the community and the victim that may be involved in that. So they have to, consider all of the information they're provided by the court personnel. They also will talk to, the defendant that's there, along with their attorney, to establish some of that so that they can make, an informed decision about that. I'm also very well versed in the pretrial release and pretrial release community supervision programs, which are non-monetary releases for people, that have very little criminal history and can be released from jail and will make their court dates.
Okay, Ms. Torpy, you're up next.
Yes, I think your base comes from the bond schedule, which you're provided at the court. And then it depends on the severity of the crimes, like my opponents have mentioned about the facts of the case, how severe it is, what's going on. Then you look and see if they have any FTAs, because you want to make sure that the bond. Sorry, I talk with my hands. They will come back to court, and you want that assurance. You also want to make sure that you keep your community safe. So it's important to look to see if they have any anti-murder acts or Jessica Lunford acts, because if they are a dangerous person, you do want to make sure that bond is high enough to keep our community safe, or if they should not be entitled to bond.
Okay, great. The last question, everyone. If you became aware of an unethical conduct on the part of a trial advocate in a case in which you are presiding, how would you handle it? Do you believe judges should be required to report attorney misconduct? This is the last question for the night. And I will start with Ms. Torpy.
Sure. So I think it really depends on the case. I think if the judges are seeing misconduct, and depending on the severity of it. For example, if they're just being rude to opposing counsel and they're a state attorney or a public defender, then you can call their supervisor. You can inform their boss that they're being unprofessional in court and give them that chance before you go to like the Florida bar. However, if it's like prosecutory misconduct, then you're going to have to make your rulings, and then you're going to have to report that to the bar. So I think it depends on what type of act is committed.
Okay, Mr. Edwards, I'll go with you next.
I actually agree. I think it depends on the level of the conduct and the severity of the conduct. Many times in courtroom, attorneys are in the heat of battle, and they're vigorously trying to either prosecute their case or defend their client. And sometimes tempers do flare. Things are done to gain an edge. And I think that those things are within the power of the judge to resolve, as long as it doesn't go to the point where it's going to hamper the execution of justice. I think I know here in Brevard County in the 18th Circuit, we have an ethics committee that reviews cases where you can go and speak with them, and then they'll speak with the attorney. One of the things that we don't want to just be getting attorneys suspended unless they really need a suspension or some type of reprimand. We want to try to work well with the attorneys in the county and the circuit.
Okay, great. Thanks for your answer. Ms. Musselman, you're up next.
I will say that I agree with many of the statements that both opponents have said, that, you can in the county court, a lot of times the county court judges, will mentor the young attorneys that are in there, giving them guidance if they're starting to see some things that are going wrong. They certainly will reach out to their supervisors. I've been that supervisor that they've reached out to before. And but as a judge, yes, I do think that, I would certainly address it. I mean, I certainly have the courage to do that. And I would address it in the way that I would feel is appropriate based on the level of the misconduct.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Now I'm going to give you the floor to give your closing remarks as discussed prior to the start of the debate. Please tell the voters exactly why they should vote for you. Make sure they know where to reach you, and your website, your contact details, etc. Anything you want to opine. I'll give each individuals 2 minutes each. So go ahead and start off with Ms. Musselman and then work our way down. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, if you want a candidate for judge that's the most experienced, has the most knowledge and the most experience, and has worked 30 years as a public servant in various roles in the courtroom, and who's been seeking justice for victims for almost 2 decades, and a judge who will be fair, unbiased, who will treat people with dignity and respect, who will be patient, and who has the courage to make the difficult decisions. The difficult decisions that sometimes are unpopular. There is a party that walks out of the courtroom unhappy a lot of times. So a judge really has to have a lot of courage. If you want a candidate like that, I am the candidate. I am ready to become the next Brevard County Court judge based on my knowledge and experience. You can reach or find out more about me at www.kimberlymusselman.com. .com, and I just need to say it's Musselman because everyone spells it wrong. I also have a Facebook page, which is Kimberly Musselman for Judge, and I have some videos out there that share a little bit more about me. And I appreciate this experience, Kevin. Thank you so much. Palm Bay Live.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Miss Torpy, you're up next. Go
All
ahead.
right. Sure. So my website is Torpy, the number 4, and then judge.com. And I would ask that you choose me to be your next county court judge because I have both perspectives from both sides. I will uphold the law as written and the constitutional provisions as approved by the citizens. My personal opinions or public sentiment about the merits or morality of certain laws simply will not be factors in my judicial decision making. And if I become judge, I will uphold the law and not popular will. So I feel that the requirement of judges to be impartial is the basis of our system of justice. And having the experience from both sides will give me that unique perspective to best serve the people in the people's courts. And again, my website is Torpy, the number 4, judge.com. And from that website, you'll be able to email me. It has my endorsements. It has my education, my background, and information about me. And if you have further questions, feel free to just email me from the website. It'll go to my committee and then they'll ask me.
Thank you, Ms. Torpy. Mr. Edwards, you're up next.
I think voters should support me in this race to be county court judge because I have the widest area of knowledge and experience. As I stated to you earlier, I've practiced over various areas of law. Not only have I practiced in various areas of law, I practice all over the state of Florida, not just here in that 18th Judicial Circuit. And I think by practicing in other areas, you get a chance to see how judges react, how litigants react, and how other attorneys interact, not just here in your own circuit. I think that my service to the military and this community proves or shows that I have the commitment to continue that service as your next county court judge. And I feel that I have the fairness to sit and judge any case that is brought before me and give a fair and impartial decision to litigants regardless of who they are, political affiliations, or race, creed, sexual orientation, or anything else. So I'm asking for your vote. Early voting begins on Saturday, the 13th, and runs through the 20th. Primary day is on the 23rd. You can reach me and find out more about me at my campaign website. It's Rodney Edwards, the number 4, judge.com. We also have an email address. Same thing, Rodney Edwards, the number 4, judge@gmail.com. And we also have a Facebook page up as well. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for allowing us to tell you about ourselves a little bit more. And I hope that I've gained your support in this election.
Thanks everyone for joining me tonight, Palm Bay and Melbourne on the whole, and Titusville, and wherever you're watching from. Thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for hearing out the candidates that are running for the county court judge, Group 4. Please, I hope you'll be able to make a decision based on the answers that was provided to you tonight. If not, the candidates have given you the information as to how to reach them. So please go forward and make sure you utilize that information to reach them. And again, I thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for your continual support. We've been doing this now for 2 years, and I'm going to continue to do it as God spares my life. So please continue to pray for me so I can continue to do what I need to do for the community. Please keep an eye out on the platform. I may do another debate. I may be looking at doing another school board debate, possibly next week. I have to get all the candidates lined up. So to make sure that can be pulled off, there's some interest there to do another debate. And so I may pull one off next week. So keep an eye on the platform as to when they may occur, if it occurs. In the meantime, The videos are posted on our website. The videos are posted on our website from the past interviews from last week from the school board and the judges, judicial candidates, and they're also available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Palm Bay Live. If you'd like to go back and revisit those videos to make an informed decision, you can go for it and do that. All right. Again, thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you, candidates, for joining me. That's sparing your time to engage with the community and let them know what you're about. And again, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.